It is 10:02. Good morning. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone studios. Tennessee Titans OTAs continue today at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park at 12:45. Head coach Brian Callahan will meet with the media. You can hear that live right here on The Zone. Around the NFL, Bengals wide receiver T. Higgins is not present at Bengals OTAs. Higgins has not signed his franchise tender and requested a trade earlier in the offseason. Vikings star receiver Justin Jefferson not present at OTAs as talks continue with the Vikings for a contract extension. Also, Eagles wide receiver Devontae Parker has retired after 9 seasons in the NFL. College baseball, the SEC tournament underway today in Hoover. Vandy takes on Florida at 4:30. The winner faces 1 seed Tennessee tomorrow. In college football news, former Florida recruit Jaden Rashada is suing Florida coach Billy Napier along with a Gator booster and others over a multi-million-dollar NIL deal that fell through from Rashada's recruitment. The quarterback transferred to Georgia this offseason after playing for Arizona State last year. And Stanley Cup playoff action, the Oilers held off a Canucks comeback in Game 7 to win 3-2 in Vancouver and move on to the Western Conference Finals to face the Dallas Stars. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
I mean, my God, this dude comes back from 2 weeks damn near in Italy. He's being greeted by everybody that sees him walking in the door. He's too busy to talk to me on the phone to get ready for the show. He's 4 minutes into the damn segment with his update. Like anybody really cares that much about what's breaking at 10:04 a.m. Welcome back, Lucas Panzica.
A lot to catch up on. You're lucky I didn't do Titan schedule release stuff. Breaking news, Titan schedule comes out, and the bye's in week 5, much to everyone's chagrin.
Yeah.
Good to be back.
It made me so happy. Yeah, he's back. He's engaged. We have no experience in this realm as a show. We're very scared. What was that back there?
That's the applause.
Were those children?
A crowd of children?
Just roaming around back there in the production studio. Yes, Jackson and I have not forayed into this world just yet, so we have no engagement advice to offer you. So we will outsource that throughout the course of the day. Maybe we can figure out a giveaway with some Hattie B's Feed Your Flock for the best engagement advice for Lucas Panzica.
Ooh, I can't wait for some Hattie B's back in the States.
Today, what? You've been eating and drinking your way across Italy. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. It was a truly wonderful trip. Obviously, the engagement was a amazing cherry on top, but seeing family and everything that Megan and I did, just us, couldn't have asked for better. And I think a lot of people can relate to this, that it's cool when I hadn't seen my family in Italy for 10 years. And it's a cool thing when you can go over there, and I hadn't seen cousins since they were 9, and aunts, uncles, and grandparents, and you're seeing everybody at a totally different point in their life, but you can pick up right where you left off. I'm sure a lot of people can kind of relate to that if you don't see a certain portion of your family for a long time. So very, very, very cool trip. Very, very happy coming back, and good to be back. Everything went swimmingly, I understand, last week.
Jackson's very happy to see you.
But the show went well, right? Show was good?
He was very mean to me every day.
Oh, you sound damaged.
I am emotionally, physically. He was very mean all week.
But the show was well. The show went well. It was fine.
No,
everything was good.
Show. Yeah,
okay,
it's a normal show.
Just as I feared.
He's just soft as of yet. We'll get him there. It's okay.
The normal, things he throws your way and my way, they were all just coming towards me.
Nothing was getting siphoned off.
I didn't have a meat shield. That's
No,
how we described it.
Oh, I'm your meat shield now.
Yes.
Okay, I'll be your meat shield, Jackson.
615-737. No, we have a new way, by the way, to ask for phone calls since you've been gone.
Okay.
Yeah, that's Anthony Edwards reminding you to bring your ass from 10 to 1 on 104.5 The Zone. 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to join the discussion. We already have the best engagement, Vice, and it comes to us via the F&M Bank chat on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. Where on YouTube, Trippin' Titans welcomes Lucas back by saying, just don't bring your AirPods on your honeymoon.
If you know, you know, I suppose.
We are happy for you. Happy for Megan. It looked like it all went according to plan. Tell us about your fear, because we were waiting. We were waiting for a whole week. We were waiting to see, as I'm sure your now fiance was waiting for a whole week in Italy, thinking, oh my God, this big-headed dope took me to Italy and isn't going to ask me to marry him after 7 damn years. Tell us about your fear. Did you think about backing out?
She was no thoughts on backing out.
Are you sure?
She's the one that should be thinking about backing out. But she definitely was sweating it out, because I thought she would sniff me out. I thought there was no way. She had to know, especially when we're stepping on the little boat that we took on a little private boat tour around the island of Capri to the rock formation that you see in the Dolce & Gabbana commercials. I thought surely she's going to be expecting this, but she wasn't. I think she was afraid it wasn't going to happen. And she told me, she was like, yeah, I probably would have cried on the plane ride home if this did not happen. So luckily I was not that much of an idiot. And I hit it well. She was not expecting it. It worked out perfectly. The only problem, the only hang up on the engagement was...
I don't care about what went right.
Yeah. We arrived in Capri. You take a ferry from Napoli to the island. It is a stunning, gorgeous place. And we're sitting on the terrace of like a little bar, just kind of enjoying a breakfast as we wait for 10 a.m., which is when our, little boat guide will come over and get us, and we'll go get on the boat, and we're off and running. And I'm hoping that it's, some leathery, old island man that's just sits in the back of the boat, takes us around and who walks up but the most beautiful, sun-kissed 28-year-old Italian islander named Andrea, who couldn't have been nicer. And I'm like, come on, man. You kidding me? You guys pulled a model from the Dolce & Gabbana commercials to take me and my future fiance around on this boat for me to ask her to marry me? Come on.
No way. You did not in that moment. Did you feel threatened by the boat guide? Incredible.
It was great.
I could just picture you sitting there staring at him being like, what is this?
Damn it.
Just screaming at somebody. Because you can speak Italian, right?
Yeah.
Just screaming at somebody in Italian. No. I said old.
Can I get an uglier boat guy?
I would like to trade, please. No. He was great. He was amazing. He had it all set up. He had champagne for us. He took all the pictures. He's done this a million times.
Sure.
He's seen many a proposal in what he does for a living.
Oh, he's the proposal guy. So you had a specific guide here.
It's just an excursion type of thing you can do on a little private boat tour. They take you around the island. It's about 3 hours. You go into grottos. You go into like little cave formations. You can get out and swim. Incredible views. So he's done this a million times. Naturally, a lot of the people he takes around are couples, and naturally, a lot of them are engagement. The engagements happen on the boat very, very often. So we were probably the millionth time that he has done that and led a couple around that eventually the question gets popped. Handled it very well. He was awesome. We had an amazing time. And happy to be back, I guess. I don't know. I'm moving pretty slow.
What time is it where you've been? What's the time difference?
My body thinks that it is 5:10 p.m.
Okay.
Well, so coming back's easier. Coming back's easier because you want to go to bed earlier, which means you wake up earlier, which is good for productivity. When you go there, it's tough because it's real easy to sleep until 1 p.m. the first couple days because you think it's 5 a.m. when you're waking up.
Well, Lucas is back. And some things have happened. Your soccer coach got fired.
Yeah, my goodness. Very eventful week.
Be honest. Did you have any, because you were in the Italian countryside, you were on boat trips, you were by gorgeous rock formations, you were eating and drinking the finest wine and the best food. Did you have any FOMO about not being here when the soccer news happened, because that's your one use around here?
A little bit, yes. There's the one reason that I am useful at this place. So on this show, at least.
The polls were a disaster. Every day it was a fight. Jackson started the poll music, read the one poll that I remembered to do, and then stopped and looked at me and said, "That's the polls, you idiot."
Long updates, polls, and soccer talk. That's all I'm good for on this show. So yes, a little bit of FOMO there. I can always say I was in the shadow of Mount Vesuvius the day Gary Smith was fired. Do appreciate Gary for the time that he has spent with us on the radio side. Always great, always professional, even when things weren't so great. So wish him the best, and it'll be interesting to see what direction they move forward. Clearly, they want to compete this season, so I would not expect Nashville Soccer Club to wait until the end of the season, which is October, November, to make a move here. So next few weeks will be really interesting in that regard.
People are saying that your life is a never-ending Curb episode. Vidal says that's because it's only proving my point. Gets engaged, loses soccer coach. But, one I think you're a little more attached to than the other. We've got Titans OTAs today. Brad Hopkins is going to join Lucas in studio while I scurry on down to practice to see everything that's going on. We're also going to have Tony Vitello of the top-seeded Tennessee Vols baseball team playing in Hoover tomorrow afternoon, 4:30 p.m. Central Time. Jackson, do you know if we're carrying that? Is there any kind of situation with 3HL? I'm unfamiliar with the programming schedule. He'll look that up for us, and we'll give you more information on that throughout the course of the show. We're very happy to have the gang back together on this Tuesday. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. Lucas Panzica is back. We got Titans OTAs. You'll hear from head coach Brian Callahan at the very end of the show. He's a little bit long-winded, this Callahan guy, so I expect that would carry into the start of Blaine and Mickey. We are talking to the Titans this morning about having Tyler Boyd on. So we're working on that for you later this week. OTA practice number 2 begins in about an hour from now. 615-737-1045 is how you join the discussion. Before we talk Titans, have you missed the OTA talk? Right tackle competition?
Oh, I've been pining for it. You got
on the phone with me for an hour yesterday on your drive home. Maybe you're just trying to kill time, but the idea that you were like how many different Titans topics you were throwing at me yesterday and today, I was shocked.
Oh, are you kidding? You're eating seafood pasta on the southern Italian coastline. All I could think about is, what's Devondre Sweat at?
Well, actually, that's an apt place to think about Devondre Sweat, as a matter of fact, whilst eating seafood pasta.
Hey, he's catching passes. Do you see that?
Well, yeah, that's the most obvious trick play that they've got. He did it at Texas, right?
Yeah, he sure did.
Yeah,
I mean, him or Jeff, though. I mean, feel like there might be a little competition. I know you guys talked about the most interesting competitions on the roster. How about for the defensive linemen to catch passes out of the backfield between Jeff and Devondre Sweat?
You want to make some kind... Well, it's NFL, though. I don't bet on the NFL even... I don't know. There's something fun, though, that we can do about which defensive lineman is more likely to catch a pass or catches a pass first in this NFL season under Brian Callahan. What do you got, Jackson?
The helmet's still back here. Oh, Lucas missed that.
You familiar with the helmet bit?
Someone tweeted me a picture of you wearing, is that Jackson's high school football helmet?
DCA, yeah, that's right.
It's a big helmet.
Big head, big melon back here.
Even you would be rattling around in there.
Yeah.
Joseph had to come in here and adjust the chin strap for me because it kept getting in the way of my mouth.
I think we rebrand that helmet to the helmet of shame.
Helmet of shame?
Helmet of shame.
Well,
that.
we can slap a piece of duct tape, take a Sharpie, and write helmet of shame on it. Hell, that helmet's big enough. It'd fit Ramon's head. It'd fit Slay's big head. It'd fit everybody in here. We can make this a whole 104.5 The Zone lineup thing. That helmet, I look at that helmet and I think CTE.
Why?
It just looks like something that would give you a concussion as opposed to preventing concussions. Anyway, too soon with the CTE jokes. I have some college football stuff for you to start the show, though.
Big news.
So, former University of Florida recruit Jaden Rashada, who, of course, was promised somewhere in the neighborhood between $13 and $14 million on a name, image, and likeness deal, is now suing Florida coach Billy Napier and a couple of huge Florida Gator boosters, claiming they defrauded him out of millions of dollars by backing out of a promised $13.85 million agreement after the quarterback had turned down offers tied to other programs. So it's a big sum. The reported amount for Nico was ballpark 8, right? 13.85 is a giant amount of money for a high school kid and a family. And again, I'm not totally familiar with Jaden Rashada's background, but it's fair to expect that nobody in his family is making $13.85 million in the near future.
And he wasn't as high profile of a prospect coming out as Nico. Not as highly rated across the board.
This was the first example of he's getting what in college football? Kind of the way that some of us get the sticker shock with the NFL contracts, the way that they get handed out. By the way, did you see that Jared Goff got $53 million a year?
I did. Yes.
Did that shock you?
The Lions, man, are just throwing cash around.
$444 million worth of contracts on 3 players in the last 2 months.
Congrats to Jared Goff, man. How about that resurgence for him? But yes, this Rashada thing was the first real example of a full-blown bidding war for a high-profile quarterback that was just laid out in front of us between Florida and Miami.
And he's also the first known case of a collegiate athlete going back to sue a coach or a booster over a name, image, and likeness promise. This is the first time that we've seen this stuff play out in court, and it will play out in the U.S. District Court in the Northern District of Florida, and it comes in the middle of what's going on with the name, image, and likeness lawsuits anyway, what's happening with the state of Tennessee and the Commonwealth of Virginia. Additional states have since joined. House versus NCAA, we're expecting a settlement here in the very near future, and we've been talking to a couple of people about that over the course of the last couple of weeks, and this is why we need to get to a place where, one, the athletes are employees, and this is handled by the universities and not done in shady fashion, in shady college football fashion, which has typically been $100 handshakes and, back rooms with boosters. It needs to be out there. It needs to be publicly documented. It needs to be handled by the universities, and the kids need to be school employees or program employees so that we know what is being promised and what is actually being paid out. Now, in the same way that Jaden Rashada can be a bit of a cautionary tale for collegiate athletes to not just take the first offer or take the biggest offer that you promised without the proper vetting protocols, it's also a huge warning to universities and programs everywhere. Hey, don't write checks that you can't cash, because it could end up costing you a hell of a lot more than $13.85 million if you get sued and lose. I don't know what the evidence in the case will be for Jaden Rashada, so I don't want to speak out of turn, but it feels like Florida is in a pretty tenuous situation here if there is any kind of evidence whatsoever that he was supposed to receive X amount of money and that X amount of money never showed up by whatever date that it was supposed to show up in, however large the payments were. I think that they were expecting a $500,000 payment to show up by a certain date that just never happened. And then on the day after the $500,000 payment was supposed to be made, Florida pulled the $13.85 name, image, and likeness deal.
So he's suing Billy Napier, Hugh Hathcock, a booster, and a former staffer, Marcus Castro Walker, who seems like he was the guy in constant communication with Rashada throughout the process. Suing on counts of fraudulent misrepresentation, fraudulent inducement, aiding and abetting fraud, civil conspiracy to commit fraud, negligent misrepresentations, tortious interference, aiding and abetting tortious interference, and vicarious liability. Unprecedented. And who does Jaden Rashada play for now? The Georgia Bulldogs.
Yep.
The Georgia Bulldogs. An active football player on the Georgia Bulldogs is suing all of Florida, basically, for millions of dollars. This is insane. I think my favorite bit from the reporting is, and several people had this, but this is from On3 from Pete Nakos. Sources told On3 that Georgia head coach Kirby Smart was aware of the lawsuit being filed and signed off on it. So he had Kirby's blessing to go after Billy Napier and the Florida Gators, guns blazing, making the world's largest outdoor cocktail party just that much more interesting. But the timeline on this is fascinating. The way that they were outbidding Miami, who had reportedly a $9.5 million offer. I don't know if you've seen, John Ruiz is denying that, saying that that type of thing was never in place with Rashada, and UF is promising all these things. They're promising to make good on their offers. They're guaranteeing the money. It sounds like it's all verbal. The problem is Rashada seems like he is suing on the basis that, by the way, you know who his attorney is? Rusty Hardin.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Houston-based Deshaun Watson. Ring the bell for anyone? They say, quote, the complaint states that defendants knew that for most college athletes, the prospects of NIL earnings is life-changing. Defendants exploited this fact for their own personal advantage. They're saying that they were offering this money to Rashada while full knowing he was never going to get it. That feels like the toughest thing to prove to me, that they offered the money with knowledge that it was not going to happen. We might need to get Dan Lustin here to tell us exactly what Rashada needs in this case.
It's been a while since we talked to Dan, but this is a very interesting case and the first of its kind. So we will send out the bat signal. Jackson, do you have the sound when we call the lawyer? Scared.
There it is.
No, you don't. You can't double down on it if you're late. That's not how this works. 615-737-1045 is the number. I see some comments also on YouTube. Brandon Rushing says, drain the swamp. So Florida being run out of house and home because they're making promises that they apparently, allegedly, never intended to keep. And it's being alleged, or it's said that the filing, so this would fall into the evidence category, includes text messages from Marcus Castro Walker, a defendant in the lawsuit who has been Florida's director of player engagement and NIL, sent to Rashada's NIL agent, including one on October 27, 2022, that read, "You already know what we need to do over the next few days. Get us the QB." This is like Will Wade, strong-ass offer type of stuff. Another text sent 3 days later read, "We need to lock down Jaden!" ! And then they made promises that they either never intended to keep or were financially incapable of keeping and are now in court for it.
Man, expensive bidding war, no matter what, for Florida.
This is going to push whatever governing body, if it's the NCAA or if it ends up being something different in the future that's run by Greg Sankey and the Big Ten, to try and make sure that they've got all their ducks in a row on this stuff. This is going to push all of that further and faster on the timeline because there have to be some guardrails in place. If for no other reason, then the institutions are at risk and they're trying to protect their money as much as trying to protect the student athletes, which is, the whole guise that has gotten us to this point.
Florida opens the season against Miami, by the way.
In the swamp.
The swamp.
It's a 3:30 game in it, Jackson. Just hideous to do Miami at Florida in the swamp. 3:30 week
2:30,
one.
yeah, 2:30 Central.
2:30.
August 31st.
Brutal.
It's going to hit 4 o'clock and by halftime?
Oof.
It's going to be so ungodly hot and humid.
Oh, just
So,
terrible.
My biggest question on this is, just to kind of pull the yarn out to the upcoming season, could this speed things up for Billy Napier if things do not drastically improve in the upcoming season for Florida?
Well, Pate was in here while you were gone, which I know you were pining for. I'm so sorry that we did that without you. But Pate was in here and he was talking about his speaker series that he's been doing. Josh Pate, Late Kick Live. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel wherever, well, I guess on the one YouTube app. That's how you do it. Shut up. But Pate was in here talking about his visit to Florida and saying, if I didn't tell you that it was Florida, you would think that it's as high level a machine as Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, any of them, just based on his inside information, because I guess they gave him basically keys to the entire place. He could sit in on meetings whenever he wanted. He could be at practices and take play or witness the drills that they were running and get on the record and off the record information about it. But he's fighting optics as much as anything. Now, what Pate said is that the money at Florida has Billy Napier's back and that he doesn't think that this moment is too big for Billy Napier. But it didn't sound like, if Pate knew about the lawsuit, he kept his cool real well in here with me last week, because I don't know how much this shifts it, but it puts a whole new spotlight on Billy Napier that is also impacting the money. And so that confidence, that trust in Napier could be significantly shaken if Florida's being gouged and the boosters are being gouged because they got tangled up in an NIL mess.
That week one matchup is a fascinating matchup of two head coaches that are in similar situations, with the lawsuit aside, just like pre-Rashada lawsuit. Mario Cristobal at Miami and Billy Napier at Florida are in similar situations in that the fix has not happened as quickly as their respective fan bases would have liked to see it happen. And every timeline is totally different. I get this era of college football that you see Josh Heupel in year 2 jump up to 10 wins. Everybody wants that now with the transfer portal, and there is less patience for these things. But there are still programs where it takes time, like what Mike Norvell had to do at Florida State, with that breakthrough coming a little bit later on. This is a huge year for Napier and Cristobal to show signs of that breakthrough, but now there feels like there's significantly more pressure on Napier because, let's say, for argument's sake, you lose week 1 to Miami at home, 0-1 to start the season if you're Florida. Okay, then you got to host Samford, then you host A&M, then you go to Mississippi State, you host UCF. The schedule's actually kind of forgiving for Florida. They do have to go to Tennessee. They do have to go to Texas. Obviously, they play Georgia every single year. But if things kind of spin out of control for a stretch there, like let's say Florida drops games at Tennessee, Kentucky, Georgia, and Texas, that 4-game run right there, and you're looking down the barrel of another 6-6, 7-5 type of finish, plus your head coach is mired in a lawsuit from a former recruit in what was one of the most embarrassing scandals, probably the most embarrassing NIL scandals since NIL was instituted. I don't know. I think that could expedite things as far as Florida just wanting to move on.
615-737-1045 is the number if you want to join in. Mark sells insurance. He wants to talk about Jaden Rashada.
Let's start cutting grass as soon as y'all answer.
What's going on, Mark? What's happening here? Jackson, what happened? Is he still there?
Should we give Mark another go?
You want to fade him up? You want to try it again?
No, I'm gonna try and see if I can talk to him before we put him on the air.
Well, I don't want to work that hard. That feels like it's taking you out of the show unnecessarily. I don't want to go back to people if they screw it up. People, what, is he there now?
He's there.
Okay.
Hey, Mark.
Redemption. Hi, Mark.
Hey, guys. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
So, man, yeah, I think he should be suing them. He should sue the crap out of them.
Absolutely.
He left. I guess he's home state. I think he was actually on the West Coast, if I'm not mistaken. I remember when this broke last year, but he left his home state to come all the way over there, and then they tell him that they're not going to give him that money, but he's already turned down multiple deals from elsewhere, and for probably even more money, but he actually wanted to play there. Then he gets there. They promise him that money. They tell him no, and he has to tell his mom, I'm sorry. I know what they said, but there's nothing now. Well, what about the other school? Well, I already turned that deal down, so there's no money there either. All right, so what about another school? Mom, it don't work like that. So imagine telling your family that you have no money now after you've already turned down multiple people. I'll hang up a list.
Thanks for the call, Mark. I appreciate it. I'm glad he got in because that was a really good point. The amount of pressure that you're putting on 18-year-olds to be the primary earners for a lot of their families, and not just their immediate families, but anybody in their family that might be struggling financially that is looking to them as the hope. I don't know the details on Jaden Rashada's situation, but I'm glad to see that he's the first out there taking action, because it's very easy to paint these kids as, oh, well, they're just in it for the money now. They don't care about the sport. They don't care about growth and development. They don't care about this or that, right? That's a little bit of the messaging from people like Saban. We're going to talk about Dabo later and what Paul Feinbaum said about how much longer he expects or doesn't expect Dabo Swinney to be at Clemson based on the way that he's handling the new age of college athletics. To have to go and explain that to your family after the fact when they expect and know that you're going to bring in $500,000 by X date, and they're probably making promises to repay whatever debts they may owe, however that looks. Good for Jaden Rashada for taking Florida to task on this, and I hope that it's a resounding enough message that either safety protocols are put into place for the sake of the athletes and their families, or that we see, enough of a message sent that you don't see another organization or university or program even tiptoe this line, again, without fear of legitimate consequence.
Well, this could be murky, though, I feel like, because in the pre-Tennessee NCAA situation, where now the NCAA is all but devoid, right? And there is no threat of the NCAA coming down on you for NIL type stuff. This obviously happened before all that. So you're still working around certain things where pay for play isn't necessarily legal in the eyes of the NCAA. So there's a lot of he said, she said, and verbal promises, and it's not exactly cut and dry like Florida made an offer, sketched it out. I feel like it could get a lot more complicated than that, as opposed to if just a regular employer were to receive an offer from a company and then sign it, and the company just pulls back on everything and illegally prevents that person from getting their money. This could be a lot more murky than that because of all of the he said, she said aspects of it. So that's why I think Dan Lust should be, we should hit him up and see what he can tell us about just what Rashada needs here and what would be the most likely outcome. Would it be a settlement of Florida just wanting to get this off their backs because this has been a very, very embarrassing ordeal for them?
All right, we will call Dan Lust. Now, what you need is the phone number, 615-737-1045. That's right, Anthony Edwards. Bring your ass, because next segment, we are going to give away a pair of sound tickets to the best call that tells us what made you say, oh no, this week. We've got some good nominees that we're going to bring to the table. Lucas and Jackson have already heard mine because it has to do with the University of Tennessee and their former football coach. 615-737-1045. The best call gets a pair of Sounds tickets to an upcoming game. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. 615-737-1045 is the number. You need that number right now because you need to tell us what in sports made you say, oh, no. Lucas, what do they win when they call in for Oh No today?
2 tickets to see the Nashville Sounds host Charlotte on a beautiful Wednesday tomorrow at First Horizon Park. 615-737-1045. The best submission is headed to the Sounds game.
Indeed. So I haven't gone yet to First Horizon Park this season. It's right by the house in Germantown, so I'm looking forward to getting out to a Sounds game here in the near future. But if you want to go, and if you want to go on our dime, 615-737-1045 is the number. Mine comes from our friend Trey Wallace at Outkick, who had a funny story on a podcast appearance, the podcast Saturday Down South. I'm going to shut up and get out of the way and let Trey tell the story because it's about 2.5 minutes of Jeremy Pruitt's saga and the end of his tenure at Tennessee.
The day that Jeremy Pruitt was fired from Tennessee, Donnie Plowman had called for Jeremy to come into the office with Phillip. And Jeremy was like, should I have my lawyer there or whatnot? No, it's nothing like that. They get into the office and Donnie Plowman is sitting there. Is like, Jeremy, these are a lot of violations. I don't know how we can get around this. And, Jeremy's pleading this case. Well, what did I do? I didn't do anything here. You know what I mean? I'm not the one doing this. These are my assistants. I didn't know this was going on. And Jeremy point blank asked Donnie and Phillip, hey, am I getting fired? No. You're not getting fired. Like, there's nothing like that going on. Anything. No, you're good. Jeremy Pruitt left that 15-minute meeting, walked out the door. As he was walking out the door, he gets a text from a local media personality in Knoxville that says, hey, Jeremy, just wanted to let you know you're getting fired today. And that pretty much set off a chain of events that where we are now. And it's one of the crazier things because Jeremy had a pulse, I think, for what was about to happen.
So Trey goes on at some length, but that's Trey Wallace at Outkick detailing how exactly it was that Jeremy Pruitt found out he was getting fired for cause, which honestly, while I'm hearing that audio, Lucas, makes me think of Billy Napier, because if Billy Napier gets sued and Florida's not getting sued and Florida looks at that and says, we didn't know he was doing all that. We didn't know he was making $13.5 million promises that he couldn't cash. What if Florida just looks around and said, maybe we Jeremy Pruitt this guy and get him out of here without paying a buyout?
Yeah. I mean, that kind of is a pretty good blueprint, what Tennessee was able to do with Pruitt and cooperate with the NCAA and get out of paying that buyout and use it to their advantage. Different situation with Florida because it's not the NCAA bearing down on you here, right? There are no worries about, you don't care about what the NCAA, at this point it's just about a lawsuit and taking this thing to court if you have to. But definitely something to keep in mind.
Your turn.
So we land in Detroit. From Paris. We connected from Napoli to through Paris, back to Detroit on the way back on Sunday. And a universal moment that I'm sure any of our fellow travelers have experienced at least once in their life of when you get off the plane, 8.5-hour flight, you go through customs, you got to wait in that line, and then you're sitting there. All that's left to end this 24-hour day of travel is just to get your baggage off the carousel and go home. And you're sitting there and you're watching that carousel turn and then it stops and that's it. That's all the bags that came from Detroit. And it's that sinking feeling of, oh no, bag got left in Paris. So my oh no of the week is Air France, who I swear did this intentionally. I swear this is the French people trying to stick it to us, flying out of Paris, because the guy at the Delta desk tells us, oh, they're notorious for this. Yeah, it'll be here tomorrow. It sounded intentional. It did not sound like a mistake. It did not sound like Air France forgot to put our bag on the flight. It sounded like Air France just said, we'll send that one tomorrow. So now Megan's got to drive back to the Detroit airport at some point tonight to go pick up the bag. Air France.
Look at you just immediately comes back from vacation, hasn't had a microphone in front of his face for the better part of 2 weeks, and just immediately uses it to attack a business.
Also, the worst plain food I've ever had. I mean, just absolutely terrible. Air France, be better.
I wish I could have had some cheesy patriotic music to play under that rant.
No, we're not supporting him bashing the French just because he didn't get his bag on time.
Are the French listening?
You don't know. The Canadians were listening. They came after us last time we did Canada Hate Week.
We've got a pretty wide signal. The French could be listening.
What's your oh no, Jackson?
My oh no, it comes from Canada. So at a Toronto Blue Jays game, a fan was hit with a 110-mile-an-hour foul ball in the head.
Oh, God.
And she stayed at the game for the remainder of the game. She posted a picture on Twitter, and there is just this baseball-sized, swelled-up knot on her forehead.
Why would you stay?
I would go home. I would go to the hospital. But
you know people are going to take pictures of you. You're the
she took a
girl
selfie.
that just got. She took a selfie. I hate people. You know what? I'm not going to advocate that I hope that happens more to people who are just going to stay for the moment and take a selfie afterwards for the clout. But I hate that. I hate that so much. That fills me with such unnecessary rage.
I will be retweeting the tweet.
Stayed for the picture.
Because it is insane the way that this girl's forehead looks.
I mean, God forbid something happens to her afterwards because she waited to go to the hospital because she got to get the damn selfie and stay at the baseball game.
You know what the worst part is? She didn't even get the baseball. It bounced off her and hit, and somebody else got it.
And nobody would give her the ball.
Give her the baseball.
She got
you know what? No, she doesn't get the baseball. She stayed and took the picture for the selfie. She doesn't get the baseball.
She did get a baseball card. Topps, the baseball card company, created a baseball card using the selfie.
God. 615-737-1045. For the opportunity to win some Sounds tickets, you need to tell us what made you say, oh, no, this week. We'll also have Tony Vitello, the head coach of the number 1 seed Tennessee Volunteers, heading down to Hoover to begin SEC tournament play. That's in the second hour. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone.
It is 11 o'clock. Good morning. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone studios. OTAs continue for the Titans today at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park. At 12:45, head coach Brian Callahan will meet with the media after practice. You can hear that live right here on The Zone. Around the NFL, Bengals wide receiver T. Higgins is not present at OTAs. Higgins has not signed his franchise tender and requested a trade earlier this offseason. Viking star receiver Justin Jefferson also not present at OTAs as talks continue with the Vikings for a contract extension. College baseball, the SEC tournament gets underway today in Hoover. Vanderbilt takes on Florida at 4:30. The winner faces 1 seed Tennessee tomorrow. In college football news, former Florida recruit Jaden Rashada is suing Florida coach Billy Napier along with a Gator booster and a staffer over a multi-million-dollar NIL deal that fell through from Rashada's recruitment. The quarterback transferred to Georgia this offseason after he played at Arizona State last year. For your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Hour number 2 is here. Tony Vitello of the Tennessee Vols baseball team will be here at 11:30. We're happy to have you until 1 o'clock. We've even got Lucas. He's back from his Italian excursion. Do you have a ring on?
Yeah, I don't get a ring.
Yeah, what the hell? How does this work? Explain to me engagement.
I was expecting a ring. I gave it to her. I said, now where's mine? And there was no ring for me. So, yeah, still not happy about that.
he seemed like he was just coming to terms with it on the air for a second.
Yeah, I put it on her. It's an amazing moment, and then I stuck my hand down, and she just looked at me. What are you doing? Where's my ring?
And what was your stunningly beautiful, sun-kissed Italian man boat guide's name?
Andrea.
Andrea did not bring out a ring for you as well? There was no ceremony for you after Megan had her moment?
No ring for me.
Okay. Well, Lucas is back. Jackson laughing at me back there because I just looked at Lucas and with genuine curiosity. Tell me about engagement. How does it work?
What is this engagement you speak of?
There are many people in my life, or formerly in my life, shaking a fist at me violently right now for uttering that phrase. But yes, tell me about engagement. 615-737-1045 is the number. You need that number because you're going to tell us what in sports made you say, oh no, for the opportunity to win some Sounds tickets here in just a second. Jackson's one is horrifying. This story that he brought of the woman who attended the Blue Jays game, got her face smashed in by a 110-mile-per-hour foul off, is it Bo Bichette?
Yeah, the Canadian Toronto player, eh?
What did I tell you? What did I tell you about the Canada bit?
You told me not to do it, eh?
I told you not to do it in the break, and you did it in the break, and then you did it again on the air.
Yes, and Bo Bichette is from Orlando, Florida.
Shadows. Right now.
Eh?
So, Liz McGuire is this woman's name. The size of the welt on this woman's forehead where the ball made contact with her skull is bigger than a baseball. It is horrifying. And then to see, I assume this is either the next day or maybe even, I don't know how long ago the time lapse was from one picture to the next that she posted, but just a horrible black eye. The worst black and blue, giant, sweltering black eye I've ever seen.
She deserves something. Season tickets for the next 5 years, something.
She tweeted at the Blue Jays, I didn't even get the ball. I even stayed till the end of the game. Anyway, you can hook a girl up. Yeah, I don't know if that's going to, there's so many jokes that I want to make, but I can't because I'm legitimately concerned that this woman is going to have long-term damage. because getting hit with a 110-mile-per-hour foul ball, not a pleasant experience, one would imagine.
Blue Jays are not good. They're dead last in the AL East. So do something good this season, Blue Jays, for a change, and hook this woman up.
All right, to the phones. Let's start with Nick, who's an operator. What kind of operator are you, Nick?
I am I manufacture air brakes and do stuff for that. So.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. All I know is the heckler on the first tee for Scotty Scheffler at the Open Championship when he tees off. Of course, stripes one right down the middle. And the guy says, as he's walking away, he says, "By the way, your mugshot's better than Tiger's. Go win it."
Oh, no. Stay on hold, Nick. That's an excellent one. The Scotty Scheffler mugshot. Did you read the details on this? I don't know how much of this you caught.
I was kind of monitoring it. It was all over social media, but it's a crazy story. It's a crazy story. Is Scotty Scheffler the good guy of sports right now?
Yeah.
Right, of American sports.
That's why I was so confused when somebody told me that Scotty Scheffler got arrested, because I'm like, that guy?
Yeah, so that picture of him, it's like not only arrested, but like the orange jumpsuit and everything. It is jarring to see.
Yeah, well, apparently when he got booked, while they're processing him, they realized who it is, because, in real time, they clearly didn't realize that this was Scotty Scheffler, world number one in golf and defending Masters champion from like a month ago. So when they were processing him and they realized who he was, they said, do you want the whole treatment? Like, do you want us to process you like all the way? Do you want the mugshot? And so that's why he's in the jumpsuit, and how they got him in and out of there, because they just gave him the full run through. They even gave him like the terrible sandwich that they give you in the drunk tank to sober up. Like all of it. And he was like, yeah, apparently he was interviewed afterwards. He was like, yeah, it was kind of weird. And I'll be honest with you.
I guess did he say yes? I guess he got there.
That's why he got the jumpsuit.
Give me the whole experience. If I'm here, I want to know what it's like to get arrested.
Apparently he was just kind of being nice to the cops after they slammed him up against a car.
What kind of sandwich do you think it was?
Bologna.
Are you speaking from experience?
No, bologna to me screams prison. I don't know why. It's just, I would rather go to prison than eat bologna.
I was thinking a stale peanut butter sandwich.
Yeah, I think I'm with Jackson on that.
Royce is an engineer up next. Go ahead, Royce.
Yes, mine is from the championship as well, but it's where Bryson, I think it was right after hole 9, he pitched the ball to a little kid, and then the guy picks up and starts to run off with it, and they have to call him back to get the ball and give it back to the kid.
Oh, an adult took it from the child, or like the kid didn't pick it up?
Running away. Yeah, you could find it, I think, like on Twitter. He takes it and starts leaving, and the crowd and Shambhala and everybody has to call him back to give the ball back to the kid.
God.
I think it was right after hole 9 or something like that.
Why do people suck? It's not all people. Thank you for the call, Roy. Stay on hold if you would. That makes me mad, because I see that at Titans training camp every year. Every year, some weirdo shows up and sends like a child out with something to the sign, and then you immediately, and maybe it's your parent, whatever, but like the kid is clearly being sent to go get a signature for an adult.
Yeah.
And we're sitting there at training camp with people in front of us, and you see this a fair amount, and I just want to go over, and the Titans would probably get mad at me if I started accosting some of their fans during the autograph signing while we're doing the radio show. But like, I just want to yell at those people. I want to yell at those people and publicly embarrass them. But I'm assuming that they have no shame. Maybe they do have shame. That's why they're sending a child to do their bidding so they can get,
Chig's autograph.
Chig's rookie card signed.
I imagine a child walking up and asking for like an adult name. Like, hey, can you make that out to Dale, please?
My name is George. Are you sure? Are we making any 5-year-olds named George? Mark will be our last one for Oh No. What do you got, Mark?
Oh, my oh no is Ricky Stenhouse with a big right hook and dumped in the fence.
It's so good. Lucas, have you seen this video? I love that Lucas has missed like a week of sports so that we can kind of run this through him for the first time.
No, I saw Stenhouse and Bush.
Did you get away from Twitter while you're on vacation and getting engaged?
This
about
just
all this
happened.
stuff.
This just happened. Was this not like on Sunday?
Were you back in the States on Sunday?
The All-Star race? Yeah, that's when I got back in.
Okay. The fight the fights in NASCAR are hilarious to me, but it's just so funny because it's like it turns into a bit of a brawl, and you have some dude who's decked out in a lime green not tracksuit. I don't want to call it a jumpsuit. You know what I'm talking about.
Racing suit.
But he's like a member of the pit crew, and that's not a driver in that suit that I'm talking about, standing on the bed of the truck, Incredible Hulk throwing people off.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
I thought it was a
talking about?
driver.
Then somebody's dad gets involved, and you just hear a small child in the background saying, "Somebody get my dad." This is a pretty good one. Those are 3 quality submissions. All right, I'll leave it to you two. Nick, Royce, or Mark? Who's going to the Sounds game?
My vote's Mark.
Yeah, let's give it to Mark. That fight, especially after an all-star race, too. Like, it's not
even
Daytona,
see, Nick,
not the Cup Series.
I'm tempted to overrule you two because I really, really like Nick's. But I guess since Lucas is back, this is taking on a more democratic tone after I've been running this place as a dictatorship for the better part of 2 weeks. So congratulations to Mark. He's going to the Sounds game. We appreciate the submissions by all of you. They were excellent. All right, so we're going to have Tony Vitello at 11:30. But before we talk to Tony V, we are going to get into some comments made by the Titans head coach, Brian Callahan. He's doing a string of podcast appearances as of late with The Athletic. He was also on with Taylor Lewan and Will Compton. That episode dropped of Bussin' with the Boys this morning. I haven't heard the Bussin' podcast yet, but I have heard The Athletics, and there are a couple of interesting takeaways I think Titans fans need to know about the guy who's going to be running your team. So we'll get to those coming up next. If you want to get involved, 615-737-1045 is the number. A couple of reminders for those of you who were scheduled to play golf in the 1045 The Zone Spring Golf Classic. That was rescheduled to June the 7th, Friday, June the 7th. So they are going to still have opportunities for you guys to go to 1045thezone.com and get a team if you have not yet purchased one. They're pretty limited since we were already scheduled to have the event, but since we've got a few extra weeks, you can jump in there if you want to. It's presented by Ferguson and State Water Heaters. Friday, June the 7th at Greystone Golf Club. A great day accompanied by food, cocktails, prizes, 2 flights, 8 a.m. or 1 p.m., and spend the day teeing off with all of us on Friday, June the 7th, 1045thezone.com for those tickets and to put together a team. You'll hear from Brian Callahan coming up next. QC Kinetics is here to help you at this most important time of year for you to have your full mobility, your full range of motion, and you know you can't do that if you're dealing with nagging joint pain. Don't go through the summer missing out on life. Call QC Kinetics right now and find out how they can use biologics from your own body to give new life to your achy joints. QC's regenerative medicine protocols can restore and repair that damaged tissue with no surgery, no steroids, no drugs, and no downtime. It's the future of medicine. Tens of thousands of QC Kinetics patients around the country are living their best life this year because they made the call. QC's medical professionals are under the direction of Dr. Mitchell Shinecup, a former orthopedic surgeon who became a true pioneer in regenerative medicine. He was looking for a better way to help people with their nagging joint issues. So call QC Kinetics today for a free consultation. 615-249-4024. That's 615-249-4024. Welcome back to the show, fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. Lunch not that far away. Hattie B's, so many great locations around the Middle Tennessee area for you to get the best hot chicken in Nashville or around the country, as a matter of fact. If you're in Vegas, if you're in Texas, in Dallas, or in Austin, Hattie B's has a location near you. Tony Vitello going to join us in about 9 minutes from now. The Vols will play tomorrow in the SEC tournament. Hoover, Alabama, always good to get college baseball back in our lives. And the Vols and Vanderbilt, I mean, they could be facing each other again, depending on how this afternoon's results go between Florida and Vandy. That will determine tomorrow's opponent for Tennessee. Speaking of coaches, Brian Callahan doing some rounds media-wise, and he's been on a couple of podcasts as of late, including the Athletics podcast with Robert Mays. What are you doing? Playing things on your phone. It didn't go out over your microphone because your microphone's off, so technically this isn't a finable situation, but how are you doing this on your first day back after 2 weeks gallivanting across Italy?
I don't have to say anything. It didn't go out on the air, so you are the one bogging the show down now, not
exactly.
me.
Let me hear from Brian Callahan on J.C. Latham's transition and what the head coach's thoughts were with Robert Mays.
Just because you can see the athleticism and the traits, he also played left in high school. He's a fantastic athlete, so sometimes that's an easy translation. Guys have done it before. My dad did it with Jedrick Wills.
Yeah.
So same style. So it's not something that you're fully projecting that you've never seen before. It's happened. I mean, Tyron Smith went from the right to the left as well. So it's a transition that we think can be made. And for JC, he's got the requisite skill set to probably make that move and settle in pretty well over there. Also being that he did play it in high school and he just kind of got stuck at right tackle at Alabama.
Yeah, circumstances always creep up.
And then and then they get a 5-star kid that was playing there last year. So the best way for them to play was to have him play the position he was comfortable. He's fully capable of playing left tackle. And you watch a lot of the workout stuff that was done. And when you look at him, it's like you can make this transition. And not to say that it's not like, oh, this is easy, because it's not easy. But
you can project it.
You can project his athleticism and skills would tell you that he can make that switch.
When are we going to stop asking the question about it?
Yeah, I guess my biggest question would be, how bad would it have to be for them to say, okay, no, this isn't going to work. JC's going to have to play right. Like how...
It's going to be bad at times this year.
Sure. But just how...
It can't be league worst.
Right.
You know? Like,
but
they're going to ride it out unless he's Dillard or Daly.
That's what I'm saying. Like, is that... What would it take for them to say, oh, we can't put him at left tackle. This is untenable.
A disaster.
Right? And clearly they have confidence in the player, and for good reason, the development of the player and Bill Callahan, to not seem very concerned about it.
If he's healthy, he's the left tackle all year. Even if there are some speed bumps, and there will be speed bumps. Just like Levis. Like, it's not like Levis is going to be this totally clean, totally accurate, totally refined prospect at the quarterback position just because he's been in the NFL for a year, because he's got 9 starts. No, Levis is going to make some mistakes because he's still a young quarterback and he's still got some bleep at somebody's down there to him that is going to cause turnovers at times. He's still got some accuracy issues that you're looking to clean up and some mechanics that you're going to want to improve. So there's a learning curve for any young player, and J.C. Latham in particular is going to have a learning curve at left tackle. He had a learning curve on the sled. Sled's the perfect example, right? Because we got 2 days of practice, okay? Only one open to the media, and on the one day, it was the first day of rookie minicamp that was open to the media, he struggled with the sled. Do you know anything about the sleds?
Bertha?
Yeah, Bertha and Olga.
I love it.
The 2 sleds. So Bertha and Olga, right? So he's out there working with Bertha. And he struggles on the first day. And you see Bill Callahan walking him through it. And you see him chirping J.C. Latham saying, I'm not trying to take all your money today, rookie. Depending on, I don't know if there's a fine system in place for improper technique or whatever. But he's chirping J.C. Latham a little bit. And he's telling him, hey, that rep sucked. Do it again. Do it right. And by day 2, it's closed to media. But they've got Coach Mack mic'd up for sound, and they got him following around J.C. Latham all day because he's been hovering. Mack's been telling us that he's been hovering around the offensive line stuff, trying to learn and see the way that Bill Callahan's coaching these guys. and you see how much better his technique immediately is on the second day of practice working with the sled. He squares up to it. He gets in front of it and says, all right, Berthas, you and me, baby. We got it. You and me. Here we go. And he hits it, and he drives it successfully because it took him a day and a couple of good reps to get down the proper technique. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be that seamless at left tackle. But for any speed bumps that he may face, they have the utmost confidence, if not total confidence, in his ability to work through it. So I think that should be the expectation of J.C. Latham. I'm not saying that, done and dusted, you can wipe your hands of any kind of left tackle hand wringing or whatever, because until you see it, till you see him play games, till you see him run out of the tunnel and start at left tackle, you're probably going to be still thinking in the back of your head, and this was the risk that they ran if they didn't just draft the left tackle. It's always going to be a little bit in the back of your head because you've been conditioned to be terrified of your left tackle spot for 2 seasons, and arguably 3 since Taylor really went out of the lineup. Now, what was your biggest take? Was that your biggest takeaway out of the interview that he did with Mays?
About the personnel, yeah, I guess, because most of it was stuff and it was a great conversation. Like, I would encourage anybody to go listen to it.
Well, let me just ask you this before you get into it. What did you learn about Brian Callahan that you didn't previously know?
I wouldn't say I learned anything new. Yeah, I wouldn't say I learned anything new. But his coaching style, his communication style with players, and I wanted to hear him talk about Devondre Sweat. We've heard Rand's whole side of that, right? About going to meet with his family and getting to know his grandfather and all that stuff of going down to Texas. So it was cool to hear that from Callahan's perspective. And to hear about J.C. Latham from Callahan's perspective, too. It's just an overwhelming confidence that we're getting about J.C. Latham making the switch. Like, they drafted him to play left tackle, so he's going to play left tackle. And it would probably have to be a bottoming out, worst case scenario of them saying, oh, my God, he cannot play this position. And that doesn't feel likely when you listen to their confidence in the matter with what he did in high school, what he did with reps at Alabama, and what he is athletically. So he's going to play left tackle, and I think people fall into a trap of likening it to Peter Skoronski, because I think there are still Titans fans that have this misconception that they drafted Skoronski with the idea of playing him at tackle. Because Vrabel told us after that draft, right, when he was asked what position is he going to play, what did he say?
Guard.
No. Immediately after the draft, he said offensive line.
Oh.
And it was like, all right, Mike, okay, yes, we understand that.
That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's just like it's the most avoidable thing in the world, and it's going to create so much more discomfort if you just say the thing.
Just say he's going to play. You drafted him to play guard.
He's going to play guard.
Yeah. Because then that left it open for Titans fans to go into training camp thinking, well, Skoronski could be our left tackle, and that was never going to happen. So I don't think that's, it's a similar case. They drafted Skoronski to play guard. No matter what you thought about what Skoronski should play, they drafted him to play guard. He played guard. They drafted Latham to play left tackle. He's going to play left tackle unless the absolute worst case scenario is what comes up. And it sounds like they are very confident that will not happen.
615-737-1045 is the number if you want to join the discussion. We are going to pivot to some baseball here in just a second because Tony Vitello of the Tennessee Vols will join us. They're the number 1 seed in this week's SEC tournament, and play begins for the Vols tomorrow afternoon. Are you going to watch any Florida and Vandy tonight before Tennessee's opponent is determined? Because the winner of that game will play the Vols.
Yes, and not long after, I didn't turn my mic on, and not long after Tennessee beats Vanderbilt in Nashville. What was the reaction after that series around here? Because I left that weekend, kind of that Monday afterwards. What's the feeling right now with the Vandy fan base?
Well, they're famously quiet, at least when it comes to us. So we didn't really hear much from the Vandy fans, though they did get one at the end to keep it from being 10 straight games. 10 straight losses against Tennessee. So they did avoid that a little, I don't know if you want to call it a feather in their cap after losing the series, but still. So vibes were not the best on West End when Tennessee came to town, but I'm sure that doesn't bother Tony Vitello at all. And he joins us now on 104.5 The Zone. Like I said, Vols play tomorrow in Hoover, the number 1 seed in the SEC tournament, and looking forward to seeing who they're going to play between Vandy or Florida tonight. Tony, been a while.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you having us on. You've been letting us work. We're trying to do our best, and we're awaiting the winner of 2 teams that are very storied programs. So you kind of feel like you should be getting something weaker in our situation, but we'll be getting a team that's got a lot of good pitching regardless of who wins.
Absolutely. So we've been bothering you in past seasons when we call you during the season and route, because I completely understand it. Most coaches aren't as generous with their time, Tony. I get it.
No, we got plenty of time. As a matter of fact, I just, fortunately, because we got the day off, I just got my car washed after that mass murder of cicadas on the way down here. I had to do something. So we got cleaned up a little bit here before the team practices over at Sanford.
Okay, are they a problem during play? Because I'm getting ready to head over to Titans OTAs for the first time this year in just a couple hours, and I'm like expecting cicadas to be on the practice field bothering the players. Are they an issue for you?
Well, not until this drive, and my family, was at our last series against South Carolina, no issue. They got back to St. Louis and said they literally couldn't have a conversation. It was so loud. And then I heard Nashville had some struggles, but that was my first experience. Driving through Chattanooga was a little rough. Actually, we got a police escort from the good folks in the Chattanooga area, Hamilton County. They took good care of us yesterday, so shout out to those guys.
Well, they can't do anything about the impending doom and threat presented by the cicadas. Tony Vitello here with us on 104.5 The Zone. So obviously you're enjoying the process of coaching whichever team that you've gotten any given season, but you guys obviously had great success throughout the course of the regular season to accomplish what you did in particular in conference play and to put yourself in position to be the number 1 overall seed. You have to be proud of the guys, but it's got a little bit of a different vibe, at least just watching you guys on TV, Tony, because I haven't been to a game yet in person. Looking forward to getting the opportunity at some point. But this seems to be a little bit different of a team than the one that had so much expression and so much attitude a couple of years ago. How have you kind of adapted to the players and the various styles while still being able to maximize the success of the team?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately that is, I feel like, my role, and it's different than my dad, who was a disciplinarian and kind of old school. It was, get in line and do this, and I think you can win that way and have a lot of success. But just for me, I just kind of roll with who we have. I mean, recruiting is in my background, and you got to adjust to the guys that you have. And I do think this group has every bit as much attitude. It just kind of comes in different forms. And the cool thing about this group is instead of like that 22 team, success right out of the gate, they're really strong early. You kind of hand the keys to the car off to them and say, you guys do this. This team wants to be coached. They want to be told what to do. And if you do tell them what to do, they'll go straight ahead and do it as well as they can. And then the other thing, too, is just the improvement level. We started out the year losing our series in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and we finished the year sweeping. And as you look at the story in between those, it was a team that had to evolve a little bit to get to where we got as far as our seed in the tournament.
Tony, how do you guys talk about in-season goals as you parse through the season? When it comes to SEC regular season title, you have that, the 1 seed in the tournament, and then you move on to the SEC tournament. Then obviously it's eyes towards Omaha and getting that national championship. Do you guys kind of parse it out, or do you talk about those long-term goals from the jump throughout the course of the season? How do y'all kind of handle that inside the building?
Yeah, easy answer is, again, team by team. But for the most part, I think a general guideline for us is now that we can play these fall games, you all remember we played that game in Nashville against Sanford, who's letting us use their field today, and a huge crowd. We wanted to get ready for that game, so it kind of gave us a mark. Similar, I guess, analogy would be climbing Mount Everest, which I would never want any part of that. But I think there's a couple peaks you got to hit. You got a rest point along the way and a point where you can stop, and then you press on. And so for us, we've tried to divide it up into chunks. And starting this tournament down here in Hoover is almost like opening day, where you're starting a new season, because this is separate. I get it. It's kind of tied into but it truly is a separate entity unto itself from the season, and the season's different from our fall season. So we just try to divide it up. And again, I think the players have a lot of say in our program. So what exactly they want to get accomplished is up to them. With this team, I'm rambling, but we had one meeting where we asked them what are categories they want to have success in or lead the country or have the most of. And I would bore you, but it turned into like a 30-minute deal that was just awesome. And in that, a lot of guys for the first time had their voice. A lot of the leaders started to emerge, and it just became a real valuable conversation. There was no one goal that came out of it, long story short. But again, I think these players have done a great job with this group in particular, and the support staff has obviously helped them along the way, but the players have done a great job.
Well, I don't think that stuff's boring at all, Tony. In fact, I think that is such a fascinating part of the team building process year over year. Because anytime we as media members, we ask coaches or players about what are your season expectations, what are your goals? You know, it's smart to downplay any level of expectation whatsoever. Maybe that's just in pro football, because you don't want to set yourself up for failure unnecessarily, especially when it's as avoidable as that. But to hear it on the inside and how you guys go about that process, I'm always interested in.
Yeah, and I think with this, we're more ambitious. I don't want to say more ambitious than the coaches, but I think greedier is a good word, and they looked a little bit more at the big picture and kind of tied that greed into it as far as what they wanted to do and what they thought they can do. And I am a big believer in everything affects everything. And you look at how Blake Burke is with our other first baseman. It's because Luke Lipsius, Vol fans will remember, he was our first baseman 2 years ago and for several years. He was so good with Blake Burke when Blake was a freshman. And then Hunter Ensley and you know, guys like Kirby Connell and Drew Beam, they've been a part of an Omaha team. They've been part of a team that won an SEC title. They've also been a part of two teams that had some headaches. Some that came because of competition, some because of self-blows, if you will. And so they've kind of learned how to navigate the waters, and they know what they're interested in and what they're not and how they're going to get what they're looking to hunt down as far as goals go.
You mentioned Blake Burke, Coach. Been fun to watch him and Christian Moore kind of go back and forth, picking up records along the way. Simo specifically, I'm curious for you, with the season that he has had, obviously single-season program record for home runs, career record, the list goes on. When all is said and done with Christian Moore and his time at Tennessee, which I know hopefully for you guys will be several more weeks, where do you think he kind of stacks up in terms of all-time hitters in that program and also of hitters that you have coached in your career?
Yeah, well, you start with Todd, and you got to work your way down from there with Mr. Helton, who will go in this summer. But I think an easy way to finish that debate, because bats have changed, balls have changed, and the arms, the way pitchers throw, scouting reports. So times have evolved, and it makes baseball arguments with tradition are so fun, but ultimately I don't think you'll ever get to an answer, and there isn't one here. But I do think there is an answer. I'm not so sure he's not the most valuable when the money's on the line out of all the guys that at least I've been around hitting-wise. Andrew Benintendi is a kid I talked about the other day with John Wilkerson. Andrew's Friday night stats in the SEC or game one stats when you typically see the other team's ace and, you know, both teams are fresh, and they were unbelievable. And it was because the most competitive situations were when Andrew was at his best. And Simo is a good player at all times, all around. He's matured a lot and evolved as a player. But I think he likes being in those moments when, you know, there's a lot of pressure. If you don't get a hit, you look bad and you're frustrated. And if you have success, it might lead the team to victory. And I think that's where his real value has been this year.
Vol skipper Tony Vitello here with us on 104.5 The Zone. Obviously, a lot of local investment in your guys' success, Tony, and Vols will play tomorrow in Hoover, 4:30 p.m. Central Time. is where you can watch it on the SEC Network. Do we have any update on A.J. Russell? In particular, a lot of Franklin people have been paying attention to A.J.'s progress and looking to see him have success. And how have you kind of managed his expectations about that?
It's been tough because he's a competitor. He wants to be out there. Dylan Cruz was the best hitter in college baseball last year. And I remember over the walkie-talkie where we communicate with our bullpen coach, I could hear AJ saying he wants, basically, I want that guy. I want to face him. And, no disrespect to Cruz. It was more AJ is kind of like Simo. He wants to compete. He wants to be involved. So we've had to kind of temper it a little bit because the team having success has bought him time where we can be a little more patient because even today, I wouldn't say he's at 100%. He's been working his way back to 100% and to where he can be comfortable facing hitters. And the team having success has bought him time as well as us. But I think it's go time. We're in the postseason. He's wanting to go. And having said that, again, I think he's working his way to 100% and building up pitch count. So we're not looking for a guy to come in and save the season, or it's not like we traded for Roger Clemens at the deadline. It's more he'll feel great. We'll feel great about him being involved. And if he can get us 4, 5, 6 outs this time of year during a given week, I think everybody knows how big it is.
You mentioned that success that you guys were able to have throughout the course of the regular season, and you get a share of the SEC regular season title with Kentucky. How does that work? Is this a joint custody situation? Is this like the Stanley Cup? Does it make the rounds? Does it spend a week with you? It spends a week with Kentucky. How do you manage that?
Yeah, as you can imagine, I have not contacted those guys, so we have not arranged anything. I think our lawyers are going to hear from their lawyers or vice versa. But what it means, you guys were talking about goals. What it means, and I think it's great for our athletic department and fan base to celebrate a championship. Our guys it was interesting how kind of coy or at least a little stoic they were about it. I do think they had a fun moment when it kind of was the last out for the Vanderbilt Kentucky game. But I think really when you take a step back, if you can finish in the top 4 in this league, it means you're hosting. It means you're a 1 seed. It means you have a day off today, the first day of the conference tournament, so you're saving pitching a little bit. And it means you had a phenomenal year. And so, we'll take co-champ, we'll take whatever we can get. We're just trying to get better every year and win games. And I think this team parallels that. They got better to the point where during the last day of the last out of the season, they were still moving up the standings.
Well, Tony, you're good to take some time on your day off. We'll leave you alone now. Vols tomorrow in Hoover, Alabama. We'll find out who they play later this afternoon when that outcome between Vanderbilt and Florida is decided. Congratulations on all the success to you and the staff and of course, the team. And we're looking forward to watching tomorrow.
Thank you. Yeah, congrats to the fans, too. They've had a big hand in it. So we appreciate y'all including us.
That's Tony Vitello with us on 104.5 The Zone. You can watch the Vols on the SEC Network. All right, we will take a quick break. We'll come back and give you the latest on what Brian Callahan. I've done that a million different times already, Lucas. Either way, you'll hear from a Callahan coming up next. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. Brad Hopkins going to join Lucas in the final hour. I'm going to scurry on down to St. Thomas Sports Park. I'll be there for the Brian Callahan press conference. You will also hear that at the end of the show. He is scheduled to speak to the media at 12:45. Titans on the field right now for OTAs. They're about 25 minutes in to their second of the couple days of work that they're going to get on the field with both the vets and the rookies. I don't think they're live tweeting updates. I think that's all embargoed until the end of practice. So about 12:45, you should start to see some videos of players, Hopkins catching passes from Levis, Spears, running behind Latham, whatever the case may be. So Brad will keep Lucas in check in the noon hour, and we appreciate B-Hop for stepping in for a little bit, and we'll look forward to his insights and analysis there. He's wearing some Indiana Hoosier swag. I'm fired up about it. You love to see it. You.
Look at you.
Yeah.
It's so weird watching you be a fan.
It's nice because I can be happy about Indiana because it's not basketball season and I don't hate my life. So it's the fun part of being a fan. Nobody loses in the offseason. But it is a part of the Titans offseason that will be interesting. Meanwhile, since we just had Vitello on and baseball is having success, Lucas, you said that Tennessee did something for the first time in school history that is of note. No, I'm making that up.
It's an SEC history. Tennessee
SEC history, apologies.
Basketball, softball, and baseball all won the SEC regular season title in the same spring, winter/spring. Never happened before in SEC history. So it's an interesting point that the athletic department is in now where the energy is great. We didn't have time to talk to Tony about it, but I would have asked him that because he was always courtside at those basketball games, right? He's front and center on the sideline at Neyland Stadium. He's a huge part of that. And you can make a strong argument that Tennessee baseball is the closest to actually crossing that threshold and winning a national championship, right? Not just because now is their time to do so in the baseball postseason, but just one of the best teams in the country, one of the best teams in the best conference in the country. Tennessee baseball is probably the closest to that, I think. But the athletic department's really healthy as a whole right now. And there's this thought that it's because of what Danny White and Donnie Plowman have done and the alignment that's there at the top with Randy Boyd. And that's absolutely true. But it's interesting because Rick Barnes was hired by Dave Hart.
Mm-hmm.
Karen Weekly, softball coach, was hired way back in 2002. And Tony Vitello was hired by John Curry. So you've had all these athletic directors in Tennessee's past, even some of the ones that were in charge during some of the worst points of Tennessee athletics.
John Curry.
That have kind of chipped in here.
Ugh.
And Tennessee athletics is in as healthy a place as it has been in a very long time with just that one key little piece of the puzzle missing that is, well, I'll say two, that is football back to being a dominant force and a national championship in any one of those sports.
So BVS low.
BVS low at the moment.
BVS low at the moment. Expectations, though, for the baseball team. I mean, I have championship expectations for the baseball team. Omaha, once you get there, it's almost 3 seasons rolled into one, right?
Yeah.
The way that Tony just articulated it. You have the regular season, you have the conference tournament, you have the trip to Omaha if you're fortunate and good enough to make it, and you have to kind of compartmentalize those things into 3 separate entities, even though it's the same season for college baseball. I am hopeful about Tennessee making it to Omaha. We'll see what the results bear out in the SEC tournament and looking forward to seeing who they'll play later tonight.
We put it to a poll on what should be the baseline expectation for Tennessee baseball in the postseason. SEC title, is that good enough? Is getting to Omaha good enough? Or does it have to be a national championship? 60%, most people just said get to the College World Series. I think it's time for that step, right?
Win it.
The national championship. Win it. And be that first school of a major sport at Tennessee to win a national title since Pat Summitt did it in 07-08.
B-Hop's in studio next.